Halifax, Nova Scotia. Dan held a huge bouquet of balloons. Amy had 2 enormous boxes of candy. They stood outside the door of the Port Authority. "Ready?" Ian asked. "Go!" They pushed through the door, crowding in with the balloons. A woman at a reception desk looked up, smiling, but confused. Outside the picture window, 10 stories down, massive freighters moved in and out of the harbor and docked at the piers. Tall orange cranes extended hundreds of feet in the air. In the distance, lacy curls of foam danced on the water as a blue and white ferry chugged across the harbor. "Can I help you?" "We came to see our parents off at the ship," Amy said. "They're sailing today, and we need to catch them. It's a second honeymoon. We're not too late, are we?" "The cruise ships are farther down the pier," the woman said. "You're in the harbor master's office." "Told you," Amy said to Dan. Dan spoke to the woman. "Can you hold my balloons while I check my phone? I just want to send a text." I hardly think the door opened and Kara hurried in. "We're here to pick up some bulk cargo? My dad's waiting in the truck outside," Kara said breathlessly. "Can you help us? You're in the wrong place. If you'll just wait a moment. We're terribly busy today. Winter storm approaching, and we have to get the ships into port." Dan let the balloons go. They bounced and twirled, twining around each other, and one bopped the woman in the head. "Whoa, cowboy," she called good-naturedly. Can you corral those?" "Sure," Dan said. He leaped up, trying to grab a fistful of strings. The balloons jiggled and jounced. Dan kept leaping. "This isn't where you pick up bulk cargo," the woman said to Kara. "It's the next building over. Can you show me? I'm directionally challenged." The door opened again, and Jonah walked in. Everyone froze. Kara shrieked, "OMG! Jonah Wizard?" Employees suddenly spilled out from the inner offices. They crowded around Jonah, thrusting pads at him to autograph. Balloons popped. Amy distributed candy. Someone called, "Hey, Mr. Hannigan, get in here!" And a man in a gray suit and a yellow tie hurried out with a great deal of authority. He stopped dead when he saw Jonah. This is an honor. I'm your biggest fan. Can I take a selfie of us?" Kara slipped past the barrier and down the back corridor. Amy positioned herself as lookout. So far, Ian's plan was working. "Let's keep it quiet, homies," Jonah said in that confiding tone that always melted resistance. "I'm in town because I just signed for a new movie called Harbor Master. That's with an exclamation mark, bro. It's an action-adventure thriller, and I play a young harbor master learning the tricks of the trade from the old guy who's retiring. Plus, I have a little sister who needs an operation. Conflict, heartbreak, a terrorist plot to blow up the harbor. It's got it all." "Thrilling," the woman at the reception desk exclaimed. Nobody appreciates how interesting it is at a harbor, a man said. Right, Mr. Hannigan. The tonnage we get coming in and out every day, it's a big responsibility, Mr. Hannigan said. It's got to go like clockwork. That's exactly why I'm doing this movie. Jonah widened his eyes. You guys are heroes, keeping track of all those boats. We call them ships, Mr. Hannigan said. You see, there's so much I have to learn. Soon, everyone competed to fill Jonah in on the workings of the port. Out of the buzz of conversation, Amy only caught snatches. Container gantries, straddle carriers, and transtainers met with respectful woes from Jonah. Amy felt time ticking by as though it was a physical dance on her nerves. There were only 2 people left in line to take selfies with Jonah. Hurry up, Kara. She let out a breath of relief when Kara came up behind her. Got it, she whispered. Amy signaled to Jonah. This has been supremely enlightening and a huge mondo help, Jonah said, but I have an interview with Vanity Fair, and I've got to roll. Ignoring the cold wind whipping in from the water, the gang climbed the fence marked No Admittance and wove their way through the cranes and trucks and giant containers to the pier. Towering over them was a massive cargo container ship, as big as a building. Amy shivered in the icy wind off the harbor. She had to crane her neck to see the top of the bow of the ship, maybe 50 feet up. The ship was as long as a football field, and she couldn't imagine what incredible feat of engineering kept it upright in the water. If it tipped over, it seemed as though it would smash them into the center of the earth. They shrank against the wall, metal container, keeping close. Around them, men strode by in hard hats, heading to cranes, talking on walkie-talkies, consulting clipboards and tablets. Tall orange cranes bristled in the sky like gigantic clever insects with enormous claws. Various smaller cranes, forklifts, and cargo gear sat next to row upon row of metal containers as big as railroad cars. Rows and rows, stacks and stacks. Hundreds of containers stretching from one end of the yard to the other. They're filled with machine parts, Kara said, reading from the list. Nothing that would blow up, Dan said. My good man Hannigan said that the containers are sealed at the port of origin, Jonah said. They don't get opened until the destination. It's all coded and scanned. The crew usually doesn't know what's in those containers. They could be toys from China, or sweaters from Thailand, or faucets, or pipes. The goal is to unload the ship in 24 hours. Just load those babies onto trucks and railroad cars. So getting inside them would be a problem, Ian said. There's nothing on this list that is potentially explosive, Kara said, frowning at her tablet. Just tractor parts and lumber, and things like that. No fertilizer, even. There's another pier that handles cars, and another with bulk cargo like wheat and grains and soybeans. In other words, nothing on the list looks dangerous. Even if we could get into those containers, we'd never be able to open them at all, Hamilton said. Plus, there'll be inspectors and foremen all over the place when the joint really gets jumping, Jonah said. How do we know that the ship we're looking for will even dock? Amy asked. What if it's going to blow up out in the harbor, like the one in 1917? The questions hung in the salty, cold air. The ship looming over their heads seemed to slam down on them, boxing them in. Amy glanced at Ian. He was staring at the pier, and she could tell he was shuffling through his options. She knew what her next move would be, and she itched to say something. 4 days left, Kara said. Well, 3.5, since it's mid-afternoon. Wait a second, Dan said. Did you hear what the woman said in the harbor master's office? There's a storm brewing, and they're trying to get all the ships into port. That means that the timeline could speed up. Not good news, dude, Hamilton said. We need some reconnaissance work, Ian said. Talk to the dock workers, get a sense of the process of unloading and how tight the security is and how it works. Let's find out if the storm is changing the schedule. Look, there's a bunch of them sitting over there, having lunch. He knotted his cashmere scarf more securely around his neck. I'll stroll over and see what I can find out. The rest of them exchanged dubious glances. Bro, if you think you can pass for a dock worker, you are insane, Jonah said. You're wearing cashmere. Lucians have marvelous powers of deception, Ian said. I can hear you now, Dan said. He mimicked Ian's posh accent. Good day, chaps. I merely strolled down here to have a spot of chat. They'll keel-haul you and feed you to the oysters. Ian tried to look annoyed, but he shrugged. I can't help it if I have class and sophistication. What we really need is a brawny fellow who will fit in. Everyone looked at Hamilton.